Thank you all for attending today. We all really appreciate it. My name is Marc Drumm. I am a senior instructional designer in the Office of Digital Learning and Innovation. And we have some strategies today to discuss that will hopefully reduce textbooks costs for students here at Westchester. I just want to say very quickly that if you have any questions, it's probably best to type it into the chat. And, also if you can type in your name and email address into the chat, just so that, if we don't have time for your question or we somehow miss it or something like that, then we can make sure later on that we can get back to you with an answer to your question. So the reason why we're all here today is really because of the consistently rising costs of textbooks, and to kind of give you a sense of where that is these days. So right now in the U.S., higher education students pay an average of $1,200 per year on textbooks, and to give you a sense of how that's been rising over time, since 1978, the cost of textbooks has increased 812%, and that is more than the cost of medical services and new housing. And because of this, 63% of students have forgone purchasing or renting a college textbook because of cost. That has led to some definite backlash from students. And, if you want to get a taste of what that backlash is, just go on to Twitter and take a look at the hashtag textbook broke. And what you're going to find is pictures of students holding up signs talking about how much money they've spent on textbooks for the semester. They're tweeting pictures of the receipts from textbook stores. And they're writing articles in their student newspapers asking the administrations to do something about it. It's even continued to go on it's continued to go on up to Congress, where there have been bills introduced in order to combat these rising costs and to hopefully do something about that. So, but as far as what we're doing here at Westchester, we have a few different strategies going on that are working to reduce those costs or eliminate them in some cases. So we're going to be hearing from three different groups today. The first we're going to be hearing from is the library, and Kerry Walton's going to be talking about a tool that they have called Faculty Select. Then I'm going to talk about an initiative that we have in our office where students will write their own electronic textbooks for their courses. And then Dave Urbany from the campus store is going to talk about a program they have where they work with companies to reduce textbook costs and make the books available electronically through D2L. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kerry, and I'm going to stop my presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing and let her go from there. Hang on, Kerry, we got to unmute you first.
I'll unmute. There we go. You would think 9 months in, it never ceases to make me laugh that I can forget to unmute myself. So thank you so much, Marc. As you said, my name is Kerry Walton, and I'm the electronic resources librarian in university libraries, but I'm also our campus representative for Affordable Learning PA, which is a state grant-run initiative through PALC, which is a Pennsylvania Libraries Initiative, and it is to push adoption and awareness for OER and affordable learning across Pennsylvania college campuses. So I'm going to kind of build a little bit briefly on what Marc was talking about in terms of OER and give some numbers there too. But first I want to talk about the difference between OER and affordable ed. So the tool I'm going to show today has kind of both of these in there. Open educational resources, OER, are freely available. So these are teaching and learning materials, research materials that are in the public domain, and they are freely licensed for the 5 Rs, which are reuse, revise, remix, redistribute, and retain. OER falls under the umbrella of affordable education resources, which are low cost or no cost learning materials. And those are used in place of the expensive kind of option for textbooks. So they can include, as I said, OER, our library licensed resources, of which we have a ton, and instructor created resources like what Marc's going to talk about, and also inclusive access like what he's going to be talking about. So 6 years ago, there was a report done by a PRIG about affordable education by the numbers. So very briefly, just to build on what Marc was saying, the impact on students, you can see here, numbers haven't changed much. So this is the most recent one that was just published in 2020. 25% of students actually work longer hours to afford their course materials. 19% actually choose their classes based on the cost of materials for that class. 11% of students reported skipping meals altogether so that they could afford materials. The other category is things like dropping or failing classes or just not purchasing materials altogether. And then one change that has occurred in the last 6 years is the paid for access codes or inclusive access. And so this has actually increased by 22% over the last 6 years. And Dave will kind of cover inclusive access, but students are actually choosing that over the traditional textbook format. So a couple of years ago, we did a survey, the library sent out a survey on OER awareness and use on campus. And then this here is a nationwide, result of a nationwide study that they do every year. And just in 2018, 5% of faculty used OER. And in 2019, it actually more than doubled to 13%. So it's increasing in use, which is great. But on campus here, what we found was that the biggest barrier to faculty using OER was time. Time is one of the biggest ones, and finding the material. So finding material that is reputable, that works for your class, and then time implementing that material for the class. So based on this, the library investigated a tool called Faculty Select, and this is from one of our big vendors, EBSCO, that some of you might be familiar with if you use our databases like Academic Search Ultimate or Education Source. Most of our big databases come through EBSCO. So they created Faculty Select to have a repository of OER, and then it also contains DRM-free ebooks that you can suggest for purchase. And so DRM-free is the digital rights management. It removes any of the restrictions in terms of downloading and printing for books. And so both of these materials are in Faculty Select, and you can search it just like you can search any other EBSCO database. It's located in D2L, so it does need to be behind a username and password. So we put it in D2L so that it's easy to find. I'm going to show you next where you can find it. And as I said, you just search and locate either OER, or you can request these DRM-free ebooks that the library can purchase for class use. We did have some requests in the fall, which was great, and we are able to purchase most of the ebooks, which again is great. The only time that we kind of run up against something is if we don't support that particular publisher's platform, but we're always willing to kind of work to find other resources outside of that. So very briefly, I'm going to show you where it is. It's simply in D2L. So you log into D2L under University Resources. You're going to go to OER. You come to this page, which you can bookmark if you want once you get in here. Our publishers and our vendors have funny rules sometimes about things, but then you can click on to Faculty Select. And so this is the basic search page, and you can put in any of your keywords that you might be, for your class that you're looking for, whether it's your discipline overall, or if it's a particular book that you're looking for to support something that your class is studying in more detail. I would recommend using the advanced search so you can give yourself some more fields to search for different keywords. But just like you use our databases, you can type in Here I'm going to select a discipline. So I'll choose social work, and you can see here it also, just like Google, it will recommend a bunch of different terms for you. So you can either use a term broadly, or you can use all of the different synonyms that occur with that. You can narrow it down with other keywords. I'm just going to do a broad search so you can see the types of results that we have in here. So for all these different keywords, it found over 25,000 results. Some of these will be broad-based social work textbooks, and some will be very specific, like ethical issues or feminist perspectives. And so that's where it might come in handy to add in other keywords depending on what you're looking for. What you see is the basic citation information, so the title of the book and who the publisher, or who the author is. Some books can be previewed, which is nice. The submit purchase request pops up for the DRM-free ebooks. Over on the left-hand side, you can see that there is a limit for OER only, and there's a limit for these DRM-free ebooks available for purchase. So you can limit looking at one or the other. To find out more information about a book, you can either, as I said, preview it, or you can click on the title and read the description, which is basically kind of like your abstract about the book. I would recommend previewing the book as much as it's available, if it is, or sometimes, you know, you can even find it on Amazon and preview it through there with the first few pages, or even look for reviews if you want. But I would recommend looking through it to make sure it has what you need before you recommend a purchase for it. To recommend a purchase, there is a purchase request form. These come to me. We do have a lot of fields because we're interested in tracking how many of these are being requested and how many are being adopted for use on campus. So we do kind of keep this information just to kind of see the number that are being requested and adopted. For OER only, you can preview all of these. And it does also give you a link to not request the book, but request a link that you can put into D2L. And same thing, you can click on the title and read more about the book, or you can preview or adopt the book. So here's the option to preview or receive that course-friendly link. When it previews the book, it takes you outside to that OER. And what's nice about Faculty Select is that there are a number of platforms that are publishing OER. So it will take you outside to those platforms as opposed to trying to search each of those platforms individually, which is how a lot of I have a LibGuide that's set up through the library. And we have all these individual publishers of OER on there, but it's really time consuming. So here you can take that step out and search under one keyword and look to see all the different ebooks that are available or resources that are available. So all of the OER will give you an option to get it in a PDF, to get a usable link. It will also give you the copyright, the open copyright. You know, if there's something like you can't reuse it in a certain way, it'll say that, but most are openly available to be reused and edited and revised. To receive a course-friendly link, it is very similar to the purchase request form, again, just because we're really interested in tracking how many books are being adopted. And finally, one other thing that I didn't mention about the ebooks available for purchase is that once the book is available for purchase, I review the form very quickly. I send it off to the subject specialist librarian here in the library to put in the purchase request and to look it up. And once that comes in, they will send that link out, which all of these links can be embedded into D2L very, very easily so that students can find them for content and for your class. So I can answer questions now or at the end, whichever. If there are any questions.
There's some time now if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
You know, if, like I said, if you want to type them in the chat, or you know, I think we have a manageable sized group that, you know, if somebody wants to just shout it out, you're more than welcome to do that too. Okay, let's see. Kim's got a question in the chat here. So it says, how do you embed in D2L, and is it just on pages?
So you would take you can embed the link just like you do any other link for any resource. Like if you have a PDF or a link to like a streaming resource. If you've never done that before, I can certainly help, and I'm sure Distance can help with that as well, and D2L can help with that. It's really, really easy. But there is just a URL link, and then there's the option to embed it, and you can put it really wherever you want within your course in D2L. And Marc, I don't know if you have anything to add technically about that, but.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so she says she wasn't sure if there was some sort of special method or doing it or not, but it sounds like it's just taking that link and really sticking it wherever you want to. It's, just like you would any other link within D2L.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Exactly.
Any other questions? And the other thing too is that, if you happen to think of something later on, I think we're probably going to have a little bit of time at the end there if anyone, we'll open it up for any questions for all the presenters as well. So if you don't have a question now, there'll be another opportunity later on.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And I'm also happy to even, schedule a quick meeting for 10 or 15 minutes and go over it together. And if anybody has any other questions or wants to do it one-on-one to try to look for something. And all of our subject specialist librarians know how to use this as well and are happy to work with specific departments and disciplines to do this as well. So we really just tried to streamline this process and make it easy as possible to increase awareness and adoption for OER. So if there's no other questions, I'll pass it off. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So next up is me with the ETextbook Initiative. You just give me a second to get everything going here. And okay. All right, so as I said before, I'm Marc Drumm. I oversee the eTextbook Initiative in the Office of Digital Learning and Innovation. And what that is it's basically a way, we teach our faculty how to build their own electronic textbooks. The goals of the initiative are, number one, to improve access to educational materials, which I think especially in 2020 has taken on a new and reinvigorated importance. There's definitely been a lot of calls for equity and whatnot, and I think this is at least one very small step towards achieving that within the higher ed classroom. We're also looking to, of course, save students money or provide more value for their money. That happens in a few different ways. First and foremost, the students are able to keep their book, unlike if they rent it, or in some electronic textbook programs, they only get access to it for the semester, and then after that they lose access to it. And also the book as well, since it was written by the person who's teaching the course, it follows the course very closely. And if the course uses any specialized equipment or anything like that, it's in the book. You'll find information about the exact same equipment that the students will be using throughout the course. So you'll get something that's tailored very closely towards what the students are actually learning within the course. And then also, we want to develop faculty competencies on technological tools. So we are teaching the faculty to do this. We want to give them the ability to be able to do this whenever they want. And even if they never write another e-textbook again, maybe they have learned some other piece of technology that's going to help them as they're building courses in the future. So the requirements for the initiative. And what happens is that we send out a call for applications, usually at the beginning of the fall semester. It's usually sometime in September. And so they'll apply, and then we have a cohort that begins usually towards the very beginning of October. And that cohort meets throughout the academic year and into part of the next year. But the participants are required to meet regularly with an instructional designer in our office, and they will help in the planning and in the construction process. If there's issues or if they have questions or anything like that, they help you evaluate and revise if needed. The deadline to complete the book is typically towards the end of December of the next calendar year. So faculty have approximately 14 to 15 months altogether to complete the book. And they're also required to provide the textbook to Westchester students for free. Now, having said that, if you are a participant in this initiative, we want to make something very clear, and that is that your book belongs to you. So whatever you do with the book outside of Westchester is entirely up to you. If you want to sell it, you can do that. If you wanted to give away for free, if you want to make it an open educational resource, whatever you want to do with it outside of Westchester is entirely up to you. The only stipulation we have is that it has to go to Westchester students for free. So as far as a timeline and how a cohort typically goes through initiative, we have a getting started phase. We want to make sure everybody has the technology that they need in order to get up and running. We talk about the whole process of putting a book together. This typically takes a couple of months. Then we spend a couple of months on planning and learning about the various components of an ebook and learning about accessibility, because of course we want these books to be accessible and usable by anyone and everyone. Then we spend a few months on learning how to use Pages, which is the name of the program that we use to build these books. And faculty submit their book for an initial review to make sure that, at least technologically speaking, everything is working properly and going well. Then at the very end, there's a final submission and a final check of the book. And we talk about some options for their books after they're completed with it. So we talk about things like if you want to get it peer reviewed, if you want to publish it on an electronic bookstore, things like that. As I mentioned, the name of the program that we use to build these books is called Pages, and it's available on the macOS platform. We use this for a few reasons. Number one, because it's available for free. There's no cost to the software. But also, if comparing to other programs out there that build textbooks or electronic books, Pages has a very good combination of ease of use and features available as far as constructing the book itself. A lot of these programs tend to be fairly technical, and Pages is not necessarily as technical as some of the other ones. So we figured that that's a pretty good balance in terms of being able to build the book, but also have a book with some really great features in it as well. Our office also provides a number of resources to the faculty who are participating in these cohorts. As I mentioned, you will work with an instructional designer throughout this whole process. They're kind of your guide through all of this. They're there to help if you have questions about things like page layout and design. They're there to provide technological advice and support if issues come up. If there are pedagogical issues or discussions you want to have with them, they can help with that as well. So, as I said, they're sort of your guide through this whole process. We also have quite a bit of technology available. So if you don't have a Mac, we are happy to loan one out to you. We also have iPads available too, if you want to see what your book looks like on a mobile device. We have our One Button Studio, which is up here in the upper right-hand corner, which is great for recording educational videos. And we have a web page available on our site that talks more about the type of videos that you can make in that studio. We also have a recording booth as well, which unfortunately during the pandemic is not going to be available. So hopefully we'll have that available again soon. But the recording booth is great for recording audio files, or if you want to do demonstrations on a computer, it's great for making those types of videos as well. We also provide you a D2L site. This is just a place where we record all of our meetings that we have, so you can access all the recordings and information from the meetings there. You can download files that may be helpful in constructing your books. And this is also where the faculty will submit drafts for review. So you can submit those in and we can take a look at them and give you feedback that way. There's also other groups on campus as well. IS&T, in particular, the Digital Media Center has been extremely helpful in this. They have worked with some of our faculty to make some really great videos for their books. I'm sure everybody has seen the work that the Digital Media Center does. They make fantastic videos, and they've been very helpful to us. The library as well has also been very helpful to us. They've provided us information in the past on things like copyright and using third-party content legally, as well as, as Kerry mentioned, there's a lot of information about OERs and making an OER available through the library as well. So, it's not just us. There are other groups on campus who are able to pitch in one way or another as well. As far as the results that we've had so far, our very first ebook, e-textbook rolled out in the fall of 2018. And since then, we've had 12 completed e-textbooks with many more on the way. Last year's cohort deadline hasn't come up yet, so we're expecting more from them, as well as we've just started a new cohort. So there are several more books in the works. But from these 12 ebooks, they're currently being used in 18 different courses, which I'm not going to sit here and read all of them, because I'm sure that, it would be a great way to put you all to sleep. But this list is available on the eTextbook website and is being updated all the time as new books come out. In terms of usage, we've, as of this semester, we've had over 1,500 students use these books. They've been used in 71 course sections, and to this point, they've eliminated over $63,000 in textbook costs for our students, which is something that we're very proud about, and we hope that continues into the future. As far as what the students have said, we survey them every semester, and about 4 out of 5 of them have said that they prefer these books over a traditional third-party textbook. And what they like most about these books are, of course, the cost, but beyond that, they like the convenience. They like that they can go and just download it to any device at any time. They've also, along the lines of convenience, multiple students have said to us, they just like the fact that they don't have to carry around a giant textbook in their backpack all the times. Which is understandable. I mean, some of those things are pretty heavy. So they like that they're easy to use, and they like that, one of the things they've said is they like the interactive images and videos that are in there. They like the features that kind of take it beyond the traditional textbook, right? It's not just images and text in there. There are interactive images and videos, there are links, there's audio files, there's other things like that that provide more functionality beyond, your typical printed book. So, so that is all that I have to say along those lines. Does anybody have any questions for me as far as the initiative goes? And like I said, if you want to shout it out, that's fine. Or if you want to type it out. And again, we'll have some more time later on if you think of something later on. So if nobody has any questions, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing here. And then I am going to turn things over to Dave at the bookstore.
Hello, everyone. So today, I'm Dave Urbany. I'm the textbook manager from the campus store. And today we're going to talk about inclusive access, which is a program that we've had here for 2 years now. The program itself has been around for about 5 or 6 years across the nation. So we're just going to talk about, how it began, what it is, how does it work, and why we use it really. um, so it started about 5 or 6 years ago. UC Davis out in California and Townsend in Maryland were some of the first schools to use this program. And what the program does is it offers the students the digital book at a severely reduced price. And the book lives in D2L so that they have the book on day one. So they have it right away. There's no excuses of maybe the bookstore didn't order enough, or the students ordered one from Amazon but it was the wrong edition, or whatever the case may be. There's no excuses of that. So it just eliminates all that headache, and it really gives the faculty and the students a chance to start from the beginning, like on day one. So what is it? It's a program, like I said, that we've been doing for 2 years here at Westchester. It's grown really rapidly. And essentially, inclusive access is just the name of the program. What it really is a digital version of a book that you've adopted for your course. As long as a publisher has a digital version of the book, then it's most likely going to be able to be used in this program. All the major publishers, your Cengages, your McGraw-Hill, your Pearson, they're all 100% on board with their titles. The smaller companies are getting on board. Each semester we see more and more companies opening this up to be available through their publishers as well. And then it's just available to the students through D2L. So it's just an ebook it's the same thing as an ebook that they would buy from a different third-party website or something like that, except for it's just delivered through D2L. And the way that it's paid for by the students is it's on their tuition bill. So what will happen is when a faculty member adopts a book, and then they reach out to me and tell me they want a book to be in inclusive access, what we do is first thing, obviously, make sure that it's available in a digital format, and then it would be available to go in the program. Once we do that, I coordinate with the publisher, like Cengage or McGraw. I get the specific inclusive access information and pricing. I put that into my system. So I do this for the adoption period for each semester. Then when that period is over, I send the information from inclusive access over to the bursar's office and to the registrar's office. And what they do is they pull the courses that are inclusive access and they put them in an enrollment file, which transfers back to my IA system, which shows it's a live update every day of what students are enrolled in each class. So if a student adds Eco 111, and this is an IA class, they'll be charged for this on their tuition bill as a line item for inclusive access. If they were to drop this class during the add drop period, this will automatically drop off of their bill as well, because it's a live enrollment file. So once we do that, then we get the stuff from the registrar and the bursar's office. We send an email out to the students a little bit before the semester begins, usually like a week or two. We tried it back at the beginning of the program. We tried it when the program started. We tried it like 2 months before, like when the bills went out, but no students really read their emails, and there was a lot of confusion. I don't think because they were ready yet for the mindset of school. So we figured that sending the emails out a week or two before worked really better. And we got a lot of better feedback on that from faculty and from students. And we let them know that what they can do is, if they don't want to participate in this program, that's absolutely 100% up to them. We're not trying to force any student into paying or doing anything that they don't want to do. This is entirely an optional thing. They are billed first, but they have the option to opt out. And that option is emailed to them a couple times, and it explains exactly how they can opt out and get their money back. if they've already paid for it, or how they can get the charge off their bill if they don't want to pay for it. And it's also on our website, and then of course in the store. If anybody calls or emails, we take care of that also. The add drop period is the opt-out date. So any student who decides to opt out of the program has to do so by the end of the add drop period for the academic semester. So for this year, it was September 2nd or something like that, I believe. So those always line up together. Once the opt-out period is over, the students are in the program and they can no longer opt out after that. The other thing too is we don't provide the physical version of the book in the store anymore if this is the way that you adopt your textbook, for a variety of reasons, but number one is cost. The whole point of this program is to do the cheapest price to the students. So they can save anywhere from 30 to 80% off, sometimes even 90% off textbooks. And this will work from ebooks and also to courseware. So if anybody's familiar with Pearson's MyLab or McGraw-Hill's Connect, these can also be built into inclusive access. One of the ones I like to use is a Psych 100 book that was in our original program. That book was upwards of $180, something like that. I think it was close to $200. And to the students now, same content, but just digitally, it's around $62. So it's a really big win for the students. It's also a win for the faculty because the students have everything they need on day one. They don't need to wait for anything to be delivered to them. They don't need to wait for them to go to the store or say the store didn't order enough or didn't have the correct edition or any reason like that. So it just gives everybody the same playing field on day one, and you can just get really right into the course. We've seen, we haven't done a study here at Westchester, but I've seen studies from publishers from like McGraw-Hill and Cengage that have done studies about the student success environment and how this is actually increasing their engagement and their grades. I have some of that information. It's not in the slides, but if anybody is interested, I can find it and send it to you. The studies that they found. What I do is we work with Verba Vital Source, who's our third-party IA partner. So they basically provide the system where I can build all of the textbooks and have them live there. We work with the publishers, obviously, and then of course you, the faculty. And then, like I said, we work with the bursar's office and the registrar's office to get the enrollment files and the charges on the student's account. We also use the D2L team. So this book will live in D2L. So all you would have to do is go to the content page on D2L. There's a little button that says like external resources, and then you just click the Access Vital Source logo, and that puts a link inside of your course. And on the back end, I have already matched up your course with your LMS ID and all that stuff, so it will just sync up right away. I have instructions on this also, and I'm always willing to help if anybody's interested in using this program. I can easily help them with that. That doesn't take place until closer to the start of the semester, because because we need D2L to get the IDs ready for the semester. So for spring, that won't probably start until like mid-December. And then one other thing to mention too is the IA deadlines. So for spring, the deadline is actually over. It was Monday. We do this because of all the pieces involved, all the logistics, the billing, etc. You have to work on inclusive access. You really need to get your document earlier. It's not kind of a last minute thing that you can do. For fall, it would be around June, somewhere maybe after Memorial Day, end of May, beginning of June. So some of the cool things that the students and the faculty like are inside these ebooks, that they have 100% offline access, and they're mobile friendly, so they can be downloaded. They can be, put on an iPad. They can be put on, a phone, whatever. The Vital Source company, which is Verba also, they have 27 or 24/7 support for students, faculty, administration to answer any questions. We're obviously also available here We have an email, inclusiveaccess@wcupa.edu, that we broadcast to the students in their welcome email that's where they should go for any questions or concerns, so that they don't have to bother their faculty to try and funnel everything through one place. Inside these ebooks, they also have some study tools like highlighting. They have note taking. They have flashcards. I've seen those. They're really cool. It works really well. And then they have the availability to kind of share. If somebody's in the same class and has access to the same book, they can kind of sync up their books and share pages that are important, or that the instructor maybe had mentioned. And the instructor also has the ability to share those too. And then as an instructor, you also get a way to identify and track students, how they're using it. So you can see if students are not logging in at all. You can see if students are spending a lot of time. You can see what they're spending the time on. You can kind of just check in and see exactly what's going on. So that's kind of cool too. This is one of the screens of how that would look. So for example, here there's 80 people in this course. 25% of them haven't used the book. There's a 16-minute average session length for usage. There's 7 total sessions on average. So, and you can track by student and individual. So this is the real big one here. So the reason we started this was for student savings, obviously. The reason that we wanted to do this was because a lot of students weren't buying, books, like Marc and Kerry have said, that they didn't want to spend money on it. They didn't want to carry it. They had to spend money on other things. It wasn't really an option for them to get the book. So we wanted to figure out a way to help students save money and still get the materials that they need. And inclusive access was a really great thing when we first heard about it. It took a little while for us to get it up and running on Westchester's campus. But when we started in 2018, it was 6 courses. And back then we saved students about, I would say, I don't even know what that is, maybe 50,000, something like that. But you can see the 2020 totals are up over $800,000 saved. And that's off of digital list price. So that's off of what they would be paying for an ebook or an e-version of the materials that they're using in inclusive access. Again, in 2018, we had 6 titles participating. Of 2020, we have 391. 42 sections back in 2018, 954 so far this year. And then this one is the really, really big one, is 2018, when we had those 6 courses, it was 2,789 licenses. So a license is an individual student and item. Some students may have more than 1 license because they may have more than 1 class that's using inclusive access. So you can see at up to 2020, now we have almost 31,000 licenses. And one of the really big things that we've noticed and that we're very proud of with this program is that the students have, like I said, they have the chance to opt out, but the participation rate is steady at 95.7% over the last 2 years. So you're looking at less than 5% of students choosing to opt out of this program and use different ways to get their materials. So that's something that we're really proud of in terms of the success of the program, in addition to the student savings. And that is pretty much it. So I can also answer any questions that you may have as well.
If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to shout those out or put them out in the chat. And what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to put up a slide that has our contact information and a way to get more information. So hang on just a second. So does anybody have any questions for either for Dave or really for any of the presenters? We'll say last call for questions here. All right. Well, if there aren't any more, then I think it's we're going to wrap things up. So thank you all. Thank you first to the other presenters. Really appreciate having you here and explaining your the initiatives that you have for saving students money on textbooks. Thanks to everybody who attended. And I think that what we'll do is, since we've been recording this, we'll take this and we'll get this up on our website soon, so that if you know someone who couldn't make it or is interested in this, there'll be other chances to take a look and see these presentations again. So thank you all for attending. I appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Marc.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you both.
Thank you.